dokie.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Looking Deeper with yours truly and the Reverend Sandra Herrick. Tonight we are talking about the courage to be authentically you. Hey, Sandy.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
Good.
Just so everybody knows, I'm belching already, so obviously there's work in the room. I'm going to take an Alka-Seltzer to help.
So you're in the middle of a snowstorm.
We're in between the storms. So we had one the other day, gave us a couple of feet, and we have a reprieve. But the interesting thing is there's absolutely no wind. There has been no wind. So all the snow, heavy, wet, sitting on the trees, makes us look like we're in a magical mystery tour on some level of white light that is absolutely spectacular, but so dangerous because branches and trees are coming down, electricity's out, and you have to be cautious. And the next storm is coming in. So we're doing fine. We're warm and cozy at the moment. And, this is the way the world works right now.
It certainly is. Right now, it has not stopped snowing here for a good 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it feels really good. It's comforting. Gives you the space to be with yourself, myself anyway, and who I am.
I love the snow. I love it. When I lived in New Mexico, it was like, bring it. Shut down, no electricity. We had the animals. I could go out and play with the horses in the powder. We don't have powder in New England. We have sludge.
Oh.
So in Montana and New Mexico, because it's so arid, it's powder. And you could canter in, belly high snow. So it's a different playing field. Very different.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to connect tonight. And hey, everybody there in the chat room, Gemini Moon, Laura, Jessica, everybody else, no matter where you happen to be out there around Grandmother Earth, come on in into the chat room. It's good to have you, even if you're not in the chat room. But the ladies that are in the chat room thus far are an amazing group of women.
How about everybody? Happy New Year. Oh, my God.
Happy New Year. Happy Lunar New Year. The first new moon is a doozy, isn't it?
Oh, my God. It's pristine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about what it is we're talking about.
It is all about what we're talking about.
It's all about what we're talking about. So let's talk about it.
All right. Let's talk about getting older, sometimes in years, sometimes just in wisdom. And finally having the courage to be authentically who we are. Hey, Audra.
There's Audra. Hi, Audra.
When did you finally figure out, Sandy, that you were just going to be you and damn the torpedoes or what anybody else thought?
God. Dana, it's a spectacular question that I really feel I'm kind of accumulating the wherefore to really stand in my own sauce, truly in my own sauce, because of my age. And as I have been aging, I found out the ingredients of my sauce. And owning that's what I am. Oh, this is more of who I am. Oh, I'm not that, or I'm this. I could honestly say I really had it down up until about 50, maybe 16. I was me. And then, maybe 17. And then somewhere after that, going out in the world and being more exposed to the way the world lies, or you have to conform to who you have to be to get a job, who you have to please in order to keep your job. Family of origin is one thing to identify in, but when you go out into the world and realize nobody's waiting for you, nobody's going to go, oh, she's here.
There you are.
Yeah, there's no ta-da. Isn't everybody happy I showed up?
Yeah.
And we all think it's going to happen like that, So in the honesty of really reflecting on your question, it's something I took with me into the world that slowly but surely got beaten down or revamped or questioned or exhausted by trying to maintain myself. And I have to say that there's that place of losing myself, which we can get into, and then having to rediscover myself. So it's a very volcanic experience inside me. And I say that because that's the words that are coming through me in knowing that I can run hot or dormant or cold, and then I explode. The me explodes back out over everything, and then kind of reflects to me who I am so I can remember and stay with it. So it's not I'm looking at someone to tell me who I am, or I'm looking at someone hoping they'll give me what I hope will be what proves to me I am because they say so, or they're treating me a certain way. It's that place of this is it because this is it. And there's a lot of loss becoming this is it. But there's also a tremendous gain. How about you?
Well, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Thank you for the question. Thank you for the time to answer it.
Well, yeah, standing in your authenticity. Well, for me, it's a continuously, it's something that's in process. And that also happens to do with being an adopted person whose biological family found her.
Right.
So standing in the authenticity of who I am now means that there's validation of who I've always thought I was.
Right.
Even though I was told I wasn't.
Right.
Having somebody validate.
Right.
Is unfolding.
Right.
Yeah.
The beauty of the contrast between us is I was born into a family, we've talked about this before. I'm 1947 after World War II. We celebrate the end of the war. We're happy to be home. Let's all make love and, become the 1950s reality show. And what I mean by that is everybody goes home, everybody makes love, everybody gets a family. And the dynamic of that was I was born into the comfort of something that said, we're going to make life good. I am blessed with that. And I mean that with all the sincerity that I can say. And I know it's different for other people on how we're received, conceived, and then coexist in the moment of that reality. But my imprint of who I am and my authenticity was free and safe. It was safe because the war was over. We were free because we were Americans. Free white America. I mean, we can be really aware of the prejudice here. And I was welcomed. I was wanted. I'm not a mistake. I wasn't given away. My mother told me forever, and I could feel it. I was wanted. And my joy of having that, or the relief or the ability, gave me the opportunity just to show up. And I get emotional even saying that because I know how many people don't get that opportunity, including you. And that breaks my heart. because the beauty of being given the opportunity to just show up and be welcomed, like, ta-da, I'm here, and they're all happy about it, waiting for it, it means I could just start being. The only problem I had, my sister didn't like me, but I didn't have the wherefore to know that. I was still like, this is good. Being here is good. I was called Giggly Gert because being here was good. And that carried with me for it's my touchstone. So I'm grateful to say that as I get older, I can go back to that, but it's self-welcoming. And that is the difference. I'm not looking out being welcomed. I've really worked hard on self-welcoming because of all the hardships that happened in just growing up.
Right.
Oh, there we go. Wow, I'm going to belch for us all. So when's the first time you felt welcomed, Dana?
When I don't even know that. I think the most I've ever felt welcome, other than my wonderful friends, my soul family, my family of the soul, have made me feel very welcome. But the most welcome I've ever felt, and at the same time felt free to be in my authentic self, was meeting my biological family for the first time in 2019 down in Hawkinsville, Georgia, walking into that opera house and looking at faces that look like mine. That was very authenticating. And listening to my Mama Dot, my Aunt Dorothy, talk to me about the fact that who I am and what I do is part of the lineage. I'm not the only one. Same thing on my mother's side of the family. Talking about psychism, being psychic, if you will, or highly intuitive, isn't foreign to anybody on either side.
Right.
But was very foreign to the household that I grew up in.
Right.
So being welcome into a group of people that I share blood with, but also share that which is authentically me,
right,
was very welcoming.
Right.
And I've never had to feel like I couldn't be authentic with all of them.
Right.
Whether they think it's nutty or crazy or, gee, she's kind of kooky, that doesn't even matter to me.
Exactly. And see, I experienced that in my family because we all had intuition. We all had some kind of psychic phenomena. We had all paranormal stuff. And believe me, we all looked alike. We went down the street as an individual and someone would go, you must be Richard Herrick's daughter. You're a Herrick, aren't you?
Right.
So my face is imprinted in a familiar. I think what we're talking about tonight is so spectacular because what is the difference between not having a familiar and having to find yourself and having such familiarity, you have to separate from it so you have autonomy.
Oh,
because
yeah.
And I want that to be able to be heard in that no matter what end of the spectrum, there's still the struggle to acquire autonomy.
Yes.
Because in that autonomy is more of my authenticness than I'm a Herrick, I belong to this tribe, I look like my brothers and sisters, my voice sounds like this. Because that becomes, well, wait a second, who am I then if I'm just in this soup?
Right. That's a really good point. And, well, yeah. And so authentically, we can be very different than the people that are the closest to us. But the difference can be, do they allow you to be very different? Is that welcomed or is it not welcomed? And what were we perhaps taught to think about who we are or what it is that makes us unique?
Were you ever told you were too much?
No.
Oh my God, I heard it all the time. You're too much. You're too much. You're too much, Sandy. You walk into the room, everybody notices. You walk into the room, and you've got the biggest smile. You love too much. You give too much. You are too much. You're too loud. It's like, can you stand back? It's like, what? I was, and this is, again, that place of, I consider myself shy on, don't anybody faint. I consider myself shy or discreet or private. I'm not just blatant and a splash. And I have enthusiasm of a personality and a persona. So I can be loud, I can be vivacious, I can be spontaneous. And in that authenticity, what is sad is that it works in some places, but not always in others. And so in school, it was sit down, shut up, go sit down in the corner. We don't want to, must you always be smart, all that stuff. People were angry at my own charisma. Whoa, there you go. And I didn't understand that, but I sure felt it.
Wow.
I felt wash, the shaming. To be shamed for having a personality in the 50s, oh my God. Cruelty, because it's confusing.
Right.
Were you confused about your personality in your adopted family?
Well, I was always very quiet. In fact, I didn't speak for the first, many years of my life. I didn't speak. And I was, ridiculed for being very discreet and very quiet and ladylike. And so I was very, very different. And so I didn't feel the need to drink. I was encouraged to drink and drink a lot when I was 16, 17 years old, 15, 16, 17 years old, and I wouldn't do it. And so being authentically a non-drinker was a problem because I was raised in a family that it was encouraged that you drink, and not only do you drink, but you drink until you can't see what's in front of your, face. And that's not who I am.
Well, wait a second. Were your parents alcoholics?
Yes. Yes.
I don't think we've had this conversation.
Yes. Yes. I was, if I would go to an event, even at 16 years old, and if I was asked if I wanted a glass of wine or a beer or a whiskey sour, and I said no, I was made fun of.
Dana?
Yeah.
Out of all the time we've known each other, we've never had this conversation.
Todd's over here chuckling.
What do you think, Todd? Have you known this one? Hi, honey. So what did that do? Because if there's anything I know, it's like when an alcoholic gets vivacious, everything gets bigger and louder and angrier. And so you're watching something grow in an unauthentic way.
Yes.
Because it's now chemically altered and promoted.
Yes.
So even that enthusiasm is not real enthusiasm.
Yes. Audra's saying, wow. Yeah. Yes. So because I didn't partake in any of that, I was very much ridiculed and made fun of, called many names. Sometimes I was called even Mother Superior, for being so holy, holier than thou.
Goody two-shoes.
Goody two-shoes. Oh, yes. Oh, my goodness, yeah. And so
This would have meant that they were calling you aloof.
Yes. A whole lot of things. A whole lot of things. So, yeah, so I was made fun of for being authentically me, but it was because I wasn't participating in any of the family events like that were a weekly happening. I mean,
No, no, no,
this
no,
was
no.
constant.
You weren't participating in the family drugs
Right.
and addiction.
Right. So I was made fun of for that. And
do you know that that is part of the crime of being exposed to addiction and being ridiculed because you aren't supporting the addict?
Yes. Well, now I know that, but when you're younger, you don't know that.
You don't know that.
You don't know that when you're younger.
How did that diminish you or carve you into more of who you are?
Well, I think that it definitely has made me somebody who needs to be in control of my body at all times, and to be in control of my surroundings, of my having my wits about me, being in control. I never want to be out of control in my body because I've seen it. I've had to rescue people, right?
Right.
Who weren't in control. So I think that has contributed to that.
I can drink, but I don't get drunk. I don't like it. I don't like the feeling of it. I can get tipsy, but boy, the few times that I've gotten drunk, it's I agree with you. I don't like being out there.
Right. Being sloppy or any of that sort of a thing. But even in those younger years, I remained very authentic to the fact that I wasn't going to participate in that. And that is one of the stages of my life where I stood up for myself and what I believed to be true and good for me.
That had to be rough because you literally were prime time drugs growing up as a child.
Yeah. The 70s.
So,
and
cocaine was around, alcohol was around,
LSD.
angel dust was around.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff was around.
Yeah. Sure was.
Were you fearful of it? Did you know not to take it or what? Because the authenticness in me, not my knowing of me, my discovering of my own authentic being, let me know not to take drugs.
Well, and for me, I played sports. I was so heavy into sports that I wouldn't have had time to do that sort of thing anyway, because my every spare moment that I wasn't working a job or babysitting kids or the things that you do when you're a teenager was spent playing sports. So I was always at an event or practice or, track and field, softball, field hockey, all of that kind of a thing. So it kind of took me out of that arena. But it was also that time of my life where I started to understand I was very different than all of the other athletes or whatever you want to call, the theatrical people, the thespians, all of that, in that I already knew that I could see dead people. And that was one aspect of being authentic to myself that I really wasn't ready to undress. Until I met Kelly Spencer, who at the time was Kelly Hold.
Right.
And she and I met in 7th grade. And I knew that there was something about her. She wasn't into sports. She would come watch me play sports, but she wasn't into sports. But I knew that there was something where I could talk to her about the things that I had going on at home in the unseen world. Because it was at about the age of 14, 15 where I started hearing full-blown conversations in the house and in my bedroom.
Were you ever accused of being mentally ill, schizophrenic, or delusional?
No, never.
Okay.
Never.
You're lucky.
Never. That never. No. I spent a lot of time in conversations with parish priests, parish nuns. We don't know what to tell her. This is what's going on with her. We believe her. But we don't know what to say because we don't experience it. So I never felt any shame around that. But I also knew that it was different enough, also one of the reasons that I really liked Stevie Nicks right off the get-go, the Welsh witch. I knew there was something about her that felt very kindred to me, but I didn't really start speaking about it publicly for a very long time after that.
What's so beautiful in my experience of that time of growing up that you're talking about for yourself in the discovering the spirituality and having it be authentic. Again, please everybody realize that authentic is a very contemporary word to describe achieving your self-awareness in this day and age. Back then, it just, even the psychology, the way that we talk about it today, didn't even exist.
Exactly.
There were therapists, there were psychiatrists for women that were hysterical, but certainly, that a husband said, my wife's out of her fucking mind, and, put her away for me, and that was accommodated. So to be authentic even was the brutality of being judged by someone that could classify you as mentally ill or needing to be controlled and put into a mental situation, a mental health situation.
Yeah, I never experienced that ever. It was more of a search for maybe we can find an answer for her.
Wow. Okay. And then for myself, it was hush hush. In our family, we talked about it. But when the babysitters came in and experienced that there was paranormal activity in the house, or we were also bodacious. I mean, we were a bodacious family. And we were in agreement with, now again, 9 people in my family. We were in agreement with the volume of our personalities and the volume of our life. It affected everybody around us. And we were convulsing in agreement with, this is how loud we talk, this is how we fight, this is how we play, this is how loud the music is. So we were given, I'm convulsing, we were given permission to exist in the tribe that existed with each other at that volume. And I want to be very clear that when I say volume, I mean volume. We were a loud family, still are if we got together. Loud in fighting, loud in joy, loud in just our presence. When you see us, we're loud. We have a vibration. That vibration gave me and gives me an authenticity to become familiar with. I'm familiar with a certain wattage inside me that vibrates at a certain volume that I know when it's turned down, I'm either depressed, denied, or hibernating or hiding. When it's turned up, I know when it can be like, this is me on high, this is me on hi-fi, this is me on stereo, and this is me like, okay, the party's getting a little loud. But again, like you, I don't like losing myself. And the authenticness is that there's a energetic boundary. And again, the word boundary is extremely contemporary. It wasn't known back then. It was more of there's a limit. It was just considered, there's the edge. If I go over that edge, I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that edge, that ledge, that wall, and there's the goosebumps. There was like a wall, an energetic wall that again contained me or confronted me to break through or to stay in touch with or go be behind. So discovering the authenticness also is the opportunity to explore these walls, these limits, these energetic force fields of, if I step beyond that, who am I? Because I'm out of the tribe. If I step back in, am I an individual or do I belong in a group?
Mm-hmm.
That also helps to define. And I think that there's this place in hearing your story is so much of your spirituality was so much more authentically you than your physical family.
Yes, that's a great way to put it. I mean, even as a little girl.
Exactly, Dana.
When I was real young, like kindergarten, first grade, it was the practice at the time that, at least in our household, I should say that at around 7, 8 o'clock at night, I was locked in my bedroom. My brother was locked in his bedroom. And I mean, literally, there was a latch outside our door, and we would be put in our bedrooms. The doors would be latched, and we would be in there for the night. And for myself, of course, it's really scary when you're 6 and you know that there you are for the night. And in my case, seeing people that nobody else could see, and I would be visited by those on the other side. And there are a certain couple of them that really, to this day, 55 years later, I can still see them clear as day. And at that time, I was told maybe I was watching too much TV, which made me laugh because how much TV was there in 1960, right? 68. Not a whole lot for me to be watching at 7 o'clock at night, other than Walter Cronkite, right? Anyway.
Well, you have 3 shows to consider, or 3 channels to consider.
Exactly. So I knew early on that I was different. And I knew that it wasn't because I was watching too much Lawrence Welk or Walter Cronkite or Hee Haw at night back then. And I also knew, even in how young I was, that it was authentic and that it was real. And others around me may have questioned it. And I understood that nobody close to me, vis-a-vis the family, understood it. They didn't make fun of me for it. They questioned, was I watching too much TV? Which I guess anyone would probably ask that if their children talked about the things.
Your companion, Dana.
They became my companions, yes. And, my older cousins would say that when I was younger and I was talking to other kids on the playground or at the swing set, they were, wondering what was going on with me. But I knew that it was real. I've always known that it was real. And it was when I was 15, finally, that the parish priest in Burnsville, Minnesota said, yep, it's real. And this is something you're going to have to deal with for the rest of your life. It's called the gifts of the Spirit or the charismata, but it's real. The grace in life for me in being authentic, because some people choose not to be authentic because maybe it's more comfortable not to be. For me, it's excruciating not to be me.
Right.
For some people, it's comforting to have somebody else tell them who to be accepted.
Or they don't know who they are, so they adapt characters to participate with as an assumed identity.
Exactly. So the grace in life is that all along the way, people have been brought to my life that do understand, that can hold a conversation. They may not understand it, but they're open enough to listening. And then there are those that get it to some degree or another and love me no matter what. And it's not always family, is what I learned for the first 57 years of life, is that family is who you make it.
Right. And the being authentic, let's even figure out, what does that mean? Does it mean that I mean, if there's anybody that has explored her life, it's me. I explore the quality that I have to figure out what has been done to me that changed me or altered me or rearranged me through spirit, family of origin, lovers, marriage, friendships, companionships, just being out in the world. I want everybody to know that you walk into a minefield.
Yes.
When you step out into the world that doesn't have you at their best interest.
I just had that conversation today with Ivan Looking Horse.
Amazing.
Yes.
And so if we are using them to give us an idea of who we are, they don't care enough to give you a reality check. And so you have to, and do you believe what they say? Does it feel right? Or do you suffer when it doesn't feel right, but you want to belong? You know, our identities change because we want to adapt to something or be loved by someone or to belong or to hope someone loves us. We morph.
We do.
And I want to be able to share that there is an authenticity to the idea of morphing so that you can find out who you are and who you aren't. We all do need the process of morphing. That makes me want to cry because it is the ability to, I'm not 5 forever. My personality has to develop. I'm not going to be 10 and charming and aren't I just a cute little kid? I'm going to be hormonal and have a mindset. I'm going to go out and want to put my ankles in the air. And, not everybody's going to think I'm worth being with or who do I attract? Who rejects me? I mean, we morph in our authenticity when we're rejected. I can't say that I held my own when somebody rejected me. It would be like, wait, don't you know who I am? What are you doing walking out on me? And how we morph into the feelings that we have from someone versus the feelings we have for someone. And it's amazing to be able to know not all of my feelings about people keep me authentic. I have to sometimes not want to feel things the way I want to, so I can feel things the way they are. And that being authentic to face reality rather than, but I want it to be this way, or why can't it be this way, is also that carving of us into an authentic place of, you know what, it's not always the way I want it to be. And who am I when that happens? Who is that authentic being in facing the hardship of something's not going my way? How do we become authentic in that? Do we get angry? Do we implode? Do we disappear? Do we make it somebody else's fault? I mean, honing ourselves into knowing who we can be versus who we are, who we have to be, are octaves of agony and self-discovery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I want everybody to really be able to know that we are authentic in our soul. We're born authentic. And then shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Or it followed us over.
Dragging along like Pigpen's dust. Yeah.
I mean, I can see it. Here comes Sandy, that afterbirth. That ain't afterbirth. That's my history list.
I was just...
Wait a minute, it'll be right out there. It's written on the lining of your mother's womb. In the blood. Let's just figure it out. That's good. I may be giggling, but I think it's kind of real.
It is real. And when we are, really us, the expression of our soul through us. You said something at the beginning of the podcast about losing people. And sometimes it's about being shocked by people.
Yeah.
And shocked at their reaction, shocked at their malfeasance, desire, ego, jealousies, what disdain. The list goes on. And earlier today, Ivan Looking Horse called. He said, "Hey, what are you doing? I said, well, some stuff. What are you doing? I said, I'm working on closing down my Facebook groups. What are you doing?
Oh, wow.
And he said, oh, well, I'm visiting with you. I said, okay.
Well, that brings it to the moment, doesn't it? That's the here and now.
That's the here and now. And I said, well, since we're visiting with one another, I want to talk to you about a dream I had the other night.
Mm.
And he said to me, not everybody is going to be happy about you being you.
Right.
And some people are going to want you and what it makes you that's you.
Right.
And I said, and you wouldn't know anything about that, would you, Ivan? And he started to laugh. And he said, yeah. He said, sometimes when we're really who we came here to be, who Creator wanted us to be here, other people aren't happy about that. And they will try to stop it, or they will try to take it, or try to make it less than.
Absolutely.
So we
make you wrong for being.
Exactly. And so he said, so you just have to pray for those people and keep on being who Creator made you to be.
Well, he's very generous in praying for them.
That's what I thought while I said
gesture.
That. I said, well, Ivan, you're not a Scorpio. And he laughed. He said, no, but I know you are. I said, I am. But to another point, we were talking about Easton, because he did Easton's naming ceremony in August. And he gave some teachings and things during the ceremony here when Easton received his Indian name. And he said, you do know that grandson is going to have many of the gifts that you have. Right. So you have to be you so that he can be him.
Right.
And I thought, well, doesn't that just fit into the subject matter of the podcast tonight?
Absolutely.
Sometimes we have to be us so that others can be themselves.
That is the kindest way of offering the medicine of self-development, so that if we're going to talk about ancestral healing, isn't that the main medicine? To be able to allow yourself to be who you are and the courage of it. So who comes after you can see in you their path, the agreement that they can even exist.
And
the privilege of knowing that there is a familiar.
Yes. And I think, to your point, that also goes for the people around us. Because Absolutely. I know that I have friends. Well, look at the friends in the chat room this evening.
Exactly.
We're all very different people, and each of them have gifts and talents or ways of being in the world that have informed me that it's okay to be that. To be the ballsy woman, or to be way off the beaten path of mainstream religion, or to be the person that goes no contact with family, that it's okay to do that.
It's necessary.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
It is. This is where I have that ability to know if I'm going to say something about being authentic. It means you don't go along with all the myths that are out there about who you're supposed to be because somebody has a saying we're all supposed to get along. It's your mother, you're supposed to love her. It's family, you're supposed to do this. Well, if we only talked nice to each other, we would all be nice to each other. Well, at least you're loved, go home and take the beating. I mean, it's insane. It's insane to have to suffer the indulgence of other people's projections on us if our authenticness is sad and needs companionship, and then lessens ourselves for that companionship. And there's that rub with, at some point, we either succumb to I'm not going to be me because I can't be alone. I have to have other people around me, or I will break free of what's holding me prisoner or doesn't see me and risk being lonely enough until I find my own kind.
Right.
And it is a leap of faith. And it is there. And I want to support the grief that goes with that, and not just the grief of the grieving, but the grief almost like an Italian. There's so much grief about this, It's like this. It gives you angina. It's a pain in the ass to have to grow up and realize not everybody wants you around. They just don't. You don't fit in to the norm, to the conform. And it is sad because I know I want to belong. I want to belong somewhere.
Right. And
it takes years to know you have to belong to yourself first. If that's what you're in kindness, I say, it is hard work to trust you're enough for you, and then we'll develop a life from that. It is hard to break the bonds with something that said this is all you get, or this is the best you get, or at least you have something.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to break the bonds with being shamed and living in shame and having that shame keep you as an identity that who do you think you are?
Right.
Why do you think you're worth even more than that? I mean, now we're going to go over to the narcissist that says you can't exist. And you're so desperate to exist, you only exist in what the narcissist says you can believe. I mean, that's where we are as a society right now.
Yeah. Right.
And being authentic is, I have the right to say, wait a second, I know something about me that says no to this. And being authentic means you may know it, but then being brave to speak it and represent it, to own it, to develop it, that takes courage.
It does take courage.
And it is lonely.
Mm-hmm. Can be very lonely.
And there is that suffering that goes along with it that can break us down and go, oh, well, okay, then I won't be me. And we have to offer mercy for that.
Yes. Yes. One of the things with having 2 kids, and you remember these days with Elise, she wasn't going to talk to me about anything, but she'd tell you everything. But again, me being me, I didn't want to hear half of what she was telling you anyhow, because that's just not something I wanted to hear. Right?
Come on, give me a break.
Exactly. So she told you everything. But, back in the day, oh God, it's mom. Mom, please don't talk about that stuff around my friends. And I used to say to her, I don't talk about that stuff around your friends. What the problem is that your friends think your mom is really cool. And they want to talk about it. Oh, that's not how it is, Mom. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
And now, it's interesting for those of you who are parents whose children are like, don't talk about that. It's weird, yada, yada. Our kids are listening to us. They're watching us. And if it makes them feel different when they're kids, they don't want to feel different. They don't want to be different. And eventually what happens is that they acknowledge, oh my goodness, this is part of my life too. Now how do I deal with it?
Well, there's that part too of in our authenticness, do we overexpose or bulldoze somebody when they say, listen, it's not who I am. Well, it's who I am, and I don't care about who you are. That again is learning. It's like, well, wait a second. Where's the respect for you can't take what I am, so I'll take me someplace else.
Right.
Or I can turn it down because I want to be with you, and I don't have to overwhelm you or overpower you.
And that is very true.
Or scare you.
Yes.
I mean, I'm scary. I don't know if anybody noticed. Of course, I don't think so. I'm still like, ta-da!
I think the way people normally say it is that Sandy wears the black cowboy hat and Dana wears the white cowboy hat.
Right. But it's just hysterical that, this is funny. I have to say, growing up, I didn't know people sat back and scrutinized.
Right.
I had no idea because we were a brash family. Everything was out on the floor. I didn't have the psyche of sitting back and watching. I was busy doing. And to go out into the world and realize, even in school, that different people were brought up differently and had different survival skills. Again, back then in the 50s and we didn't know what survival skills were. You just endured. And so to go out into the world and be me and have someone scrutinize me, watch me, and then later said, well, I was watching you. It's like, why? What do you mean? And then to feel trapped.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why didn't I know somebody was watching me? Well, they asked for it. You asked for it. You were doing this. You were asking for it. Like, that gives me the creeps to even say it.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes over to sexual behavior of, what? I put lipstick on. I'm asking for it by being my authentic, true teenage person, practicing being what I am. Like, behavior modification. I'm asking for it. So there's the difference between I'm being authentic and growing up. Not everybody will support it. A lot of people don't care. A lot of people scrutinize and label. And I think where some of the crisis for me is, how well do we handle being labeled and judged?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because our authentic being will have to endure a lot.
Yes.
And it is exhausting.
Yes.
And it's sad because our authenticness is not always received well. And there are people who have a higher volume of cruelty,
yes,
already self-equipped.
Yes.
That can take down someone's vulnerable authenticity in a sentence.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So that gives me the shivers. It's that place of, well, I may be authentic, but I'm not cruel. And just because I'm authentic doesn't mean that I know what to do when cruelty hits me. I'm shell-shocked.
Mm-hmm.
Sucker punched.
Yeah.
And that's authentic.
That's
and
authentic.
Then people say, you're overreacting. Oh, for God's sakes. It's like, wait a minute. No,
I'll show you an overreaction. Hold on. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, being who we are isn't for everybody.
No.
Before the podcast tonight, I was teaching a year-long course that I'm teaching in the magical mystic angels. So it's essentially a course in angel magic. And some people are okay with talking about angels. Some people are okay with wearing angelic medallions or having Hallmark cards with angels on them, or, angel tarot, etc. And then we start practicing the heart and soul of what I love, the magic with angels. It's not for everybody. And I believe that as we get older and we really are dancing with what really fills our soul and spills over to share with others, we can come to a place where we realize this isn't for everybody and be okay with it.
And therefore protect it.
Yes.
To be authentic, you need protection.
Yes.
I think that you can't be arrogant, foolish, or naive to think that, well, I'm authentic, so therefore I'm just going to be okay out in the world because I'm being real. You're a target.
You got it. You've
become the bullseye.
Exactly. And so that's also part of being authentic, is to understand that some people aren't going to like it. You need to be okay with that. You need to get over the idea that, oh my God, somebody thinks I'm a heathen because I'm teaching about the use of candles and blah, 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 fill in the blank. But you also have to realize that in some people's malfeasance toward who you are authentically means that there can be malfeasance directed at you.
Absolutely.
From the unseen worlds and the seen worlds, and sometimes one in conjunction with the other. I mean, you and I are getting ready to teach a year-long course in this together, the realms of shadow and darkness.
Yep.
People
and
have been
both
asked.
of us have been encountered in the past few days by the shadow going, what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you two up to?
It's like, oh, shit, they know we're coming.
Here we go. But people for years have been asking you and I to teach a course in that. And that is what we are preparing to do beginning, February 6th. Because to think that we can encase ourselves in a lavender bubble of light and go about our merry way being who we are is just silly.
Well, it's reckless.
And reckless.
And arrogant, quite frankly.
Yes.
To name a few things, just to, and I say it with respect and love, because it's not everybody's job to like me.
Right.
And it's not everybody's job to take care of me. It's nobody's job to take care of me, quite frankly. So to be honored with the opportunity to even indulge in authenticity, you have to have the wherewithal to take care of yourself and not make that everybody else's job.
Yes.
It's that place of, okay, I'm authentic, respect me. Why? I disagree with you.
Right. Yeah, Ivan and I were talking about that today when we talked about the fact that, not everybody's going to like you being you, Denise, but that's who you have to be. And you have certain spiritual gifts that some people are jealous of and they want them for themselves, or they're going to test you, and you need to be real about that. And we just had a great conversation about all of it, because there is shadow and light.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful mentor to have a conversation with.
Yes. There we are.
So as an old lady who's gone through a few things, being authentic sums up literally the privilege to be alive and explore.
Yeah.
The privilege to figure it out. The time given to figure it out. And to know that if you think you're going to figure it out right in the beginning, it's a stroke of luck, or you're given blessings, and, then work it with integrity. Be respectful for it. Not everybody knows their purpose, even though they're authentic in the chaos. I think it needs to be honored that being authentic also means there's chaos in being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
My ADD is authentic. My dyslexia is my authenticity. It doesn't mean I like it, but that handicap gives me authenticity in a way that allows my spirituality to be at a whole other octave.
Yeah.
Because my left brain won't function. And I wasn't aware of that until I was told that by a generous psychiatrist. And it was like, oh my God, I was in my 40s before that authenticity was given to me through compassion rather than shame. We can be authentic and not know it because we don't know what we're doing with what it is that we're authentically being.
Right.
We don't know how it serves us.
Mm-hmm. And
I think that that's part of the trepidation of self-awareness. Like, I feel this, but what do I do with it? How do I get it to be? When I was in my early 20s and knew that I was going to be this, I felt it, I knew it. But how do you get the job done? Nobody was out there doing it. It was just beginning. And it's the hardship is you know something, but you don't know what to do with it, or you're waiting for somebody to say, come over here and be you. I'll let you be you.
Mm-hmm.
You might as well be driving down the Nile looking for, Moses to hang out with for 40 years.
Yeah, Carla Joe just put in the chat room, there are more people out there who judge than those who accept. At least that's how it seems. To your point, yeah, floating down the Nile, hanging out with Moses for 40 years. Yeah.
Well, that's that. Back to the Nile.
Back to the Nile we go. Oh, goodness.
Okay, my love.
All right, well.
Anything else?
No, I think that was a great conversation. And
thank you.
At the lunar new moon, we're heading into a Leo full moon. And so Leo full moon, it's all about looking in the mirror.
That's true. And who, it's I want to just for myself to bring tonight to a tenderness is that if there's anything about authenticity that is the balance to bravado, it's vulnerability.
Yeah.
Allow yourself to be vulnerable in discovering yourself rather than shameful in not figuring it out right away. That to me is worse than anybody criticizing you, because that's self-mutilization.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And we can feel who we are, but we don't necessarily know what to do with it. Is just the process of growing up. It doesn't mean that the universe is hiding you from you or leaving you alone, abandoning you. It takes time. If you can have patience in being authentic, then that's authentic. Mm-hmm. Being patient. So, love to everybody.
Have a beautiful evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Sandy. Stay warm in that snowstorm out there.
Yes, ma'am. We got a generator that's fixed, and I'm happy. Okay. Good night, Todd. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Great talk. Okay.
Bye-bye.